Today in the DBF Garage, it's all about performance and clutch work on this 2002 CR250. Those of you that may be new to the channel may not recognize this bike or know of this bike. I've owned this bike for about 2 years now. I initially bought this bike for a flip project. Once I got it home and got looking at it a little bit, I fell in love with this bike. Rode it a little bit, and this bike has been absolutely flawless since I bought it. All I've done to it is I've cleaned it up, put new graphics, new plastics on it, and pretty much just ridden this thing. This bike, in our group of friends, it seems like it's always somebody else riding this bike. I've put quite a bit of time on it, but man, like just for instance, when we went to Caneville last week, this bike got ridden pretty much all weekend by one of my buddies because his daughter was riding his bike, so I threw him on this thing.
Hey, I know that bike.
So it's more or less kind of a throwdown bike. But that being said, as it was getting ridden over there, my buddy noticed that as he would disengage the clutch, pull the lever in, it would not disengage the clutch. It wanted to keep moving. So that's what we're going to address today. So I'm going to walk you guys through on how to repair a dirt bike clutch and what to look for and what causes the clutch to not disengage. It's pretty simple. So first things first I'm going to do to this thing is I'm going to drain the transmission oil and I'm going to drain the coolant because I'm going to pull the whole side cover off just so you guys can see the inner workings of this CR250. Draining the oil on this, when you're doing your oil changes, the color and the look of the oil will tell you a lot of things about this. So this will be interesting to see what this oil looks like in this. Oh, actually not as bad as I thought it would. While that transmission oil's draining, I'm going to go ahead and pull that plug right there. That's a 10 millimeter, and that will drain the cooling system because the reason I'm draining that cooling system is for two reasons. I'm going to pull this cover off so you guys get a little better idea of what's going on here, and that's where the water pump is. And we're going to change this cylinder head right here out. We're going to put a Luke's Fathead Racing cylinder head on this that he sent me, and should wake this little 250 right up. Got all the fluids drained out of this thing. On to the next step is going to be removing the brake lever and the kickstarter. So I'm going to go ahead, pop those two off, get those out of the way, and then undo the coolant line from the water pump to the radiator. Now keep in mind, this is pretty basic stuff as far as most dirt bikes go, 4-stroke, 2-stroke, whatever. Some other 2-stroke brands, you may have to remove the expansion chamber. This one, you won't have to because it's up high enough out of the way, so we're gonna leave it there. But I'm gonna pull these two off and the hose off, and then we'll move on to removing the cover. Come on, baby. Oh, yeah. Now, when you're removing hoses from outlets like the water pump or the radiator, loosen the clamp up, slide it up, and always use a hose pick. Always run this in between the outlet and the hose and break it loose before you just start pulling on it. That's how you bend and break coolant outlets. Always break it loose with a hose pick of some sort. Save yourself a lot of headache, I can promise you that. So here's the parts we're going to put in this thing. So I got a brand new Henson basket, got a brand new Pro X inner hub, Tusk clutch kit. These are the fibers, stills, everything to go with that. And then I got these Tusk springs, clutch springs that are going to go with it. And then to go along with all that, I actually bought a bottom end sill kit. These things are super, super cheap. This is actually an entire 250 sill engine kit. So it comes with every gasket you need. The next thing we're going to do is install this fathead from Fathead Racing, the cylinder head from Fathead Racing. This thing is absolutely just a piece of artwork. So if you guys are looking for bolt-on performance, that's true bolt-on performance on a two-stroke, ooh, look at that. I highly recommend these cylinder heads. These things are absolutely awesome. I can't wait to get this thing put on. It's gonna be great. So one thing you're gonna wanna do before you get too far into tearing this thing apart is take all of your clutch parts, your new clutch parts, fibers and the stills, and you're gonna wanna soak them in the transmission oil. Now, this is a controversial discussion. I mean, some bike builders will tell you, oh, you don't gotta worry about that, it's a wet clutch, you know, blah, 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 blah. But it's something I've always done, and let's face it, what does it hurt? It can't hurt a single thing. Now, when you're pulling these covers off of these bikes, the fasteners, the bolts that go through the cover into the cases, inner cases, they're not always the exact same length. Some might be a little longer, some might be a little shorter. So one quick and easy way, if you're not familiar with the bike, to keep track of those bolts is take your new gasket, lay it down on a piece of cardboard, and trace it out and mark all your holes, kind of like that, and poke a hole where the bolt holes go, and as you take them out, put them in a piece of cardboard, and that way you can ensure all the correct bolts go in the proper location. That's a pretty simple way of doing that and making sure all your bolts are going back in the right place. Right behind this cover right here, you have the kickstart assembly. You want to leave that inside of the inner case. So one thing I do is when I'm taking that off is I put my thumb on that to hold it back inside the case while I lift and pry on this outer case towards myself. So let's get this thing pulled off of here. Just like that. There you go. Now to remove the clutch fibers and plates, we're going to take those 6 bolts out right there. And you're going to want to loosen that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Work opposite of each other. The bolts will come out, and then the springs will pop out, and this pressure plate will come off with it. Then you can go ahead and pull the fibers and the steel plates off of the clutch. I'm pretty sure that's why this clutch was sticking. Look at that. It's been hot. That clutch has been really hot. I can't even get those two separate from each other. Those should slide right out. Interesting. Yeah, that clutch is toast. Toast for sure. So if you were just going to replace the clutch pack in this thing, it'd be just that easy. Take and install your new fibers and your new steel plates, and you'd be good to go. Just reassemble it. But I'm gonna go a step further. I'm actually gonna replace the inner hub and the outer basket on this thing, because these are just a soft aluminum, and over time they get pretty teethy. They get little notches inside of them, and then they hang up really bad. I think the reason this one was hanging up is because the clutch fibers have gotten hot over time, and at some point possibly ran low on oil in the transmission and cooked the actual fibers itself, which made them super sticky and super gritty. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this inner hub off, and then we're gonna go ahead and pull this outer basket on, and I'm gonna show you how to change that. So I've got this clutch basket holder tool, and this is just a tusk. I got it from Rocky Mountain ATV. It was really cheap. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I think it was under 20 bucks. And the way that works is you just put it down inside of here, inside the grooves, and just put just a little bit of pressure on the basket itself and lock it down, and that'll keep that basket from spinning while you zip that lock nut off. Just like that. Don't forget, that goes on the inside. Don't forget to put that on the new one. Now the inner basket should just slide towards me. There you go. Pretty simple. Get that apart. Now let's change the actual basket out. First thing we got to do in order to install our new basket is we've got to remove the drive gears off the back of the old basket. So what you got to do is you've got to either drill or grind all these rivets out in order to get this outer drive ring off, and then the inner ring right here, we'll actually need to heat this old basket up and press this out. So these are a pressed in fit into the basket, so we'll get those out, and then I'll show you how to install them in the new basket. All right. Got all those drilled out. Started with a smaller bit, worked my way up. Just makes it a lot easier. Let's see if this thing will come off. Come on, baby. I have to persuade it a little. Go ahead and pop this plate off with a screwdriver, aka pry bar. Like so. Dump all the garbage off of it. Hey, there you go. Now this ring will come off. See? Comes off of those rubber isolators and you're good to go. Just like that. Things ready to be cleaned up, put on the new basket. Perfect. That's what we was after. Okay, so the next step in this process, we're going to take the new basket and we're going to remove this back plate. Now, these screws are a Torx 25 screw, and it actually comes with a T25 bit. And if you have a Torx 25 bit, just use yours, but they come prepared. They send you tools, free tools-ish. So anyways, gonna pull those out, and then I'm gonna pull this plate and I'm gonna remove the cushions, and then I'm actually gonna take this basket and go put it in the oven at 400 degrees for like 10 minutes to expand this hole right here where the primary drive gear goes. So that being said, I'm gonna go throw the other one in the freezer. We're gonna go bake this thing for about 10 to 12 minutes. Time to go bake some dirt bike parts. This always makes my wife happy. So while we're waiting for the old clutch basket to cook, now's a good time to clean up the mating surfaces for the cases where the gasket goes. What I like to use is just a regular old razor blade and a little chunk of this gray scuff pad. This won't actually dig into the aluminum of the machine surfaces and won't create a leak later on down the road. So get those cleaned up, both cases, and just one more step closer to being ready to put this thing back together. All right, it's been about 12 minutes since the basket's been in the oven, and it's been about a half hour since the gear's been in the freezer. So let's go get it, set it out on the table, see if this thing will flop together like it's supposed to. Ooh, it's hot. Come on, line up. Yes. It's amazing what expansion and contraction of metals do. So I put that bar of metal on top of it, just a couple pounds, just to keep it, pressed down as it cools together. It won't pop up. So we're gonna let this thing cool down completely, and we'll reassemble the back side of this thing, and it's done. All that's left is the rest at this point. Okay, so she's cooled off. Now that it's cooled off and this is pressed in and not going anywhere, it's time to install the cushions on this clutch basket and install this outer gear, and then we'll put it on the bike. Now, one thing I highly recommend on doing this process is get yourself a repair manual, because you're going to need to know some torque values to some fasteners, and every bike is going to be different. Like this is going to be, the way to do this is going to be really similar on most of your Japanese bikes, but like I said, they're all going to be just a little bit different torque values, and I'm a big believer in torquing fasteners down to what they are supposed to be torqued to, instead of just hammering them and hoping for the best. So I'm going to go drag my book out, torque this down, throw it on the bike. One last thing before you install this thing, to help ensure that these bolts or these screws don't back out, is you take a fine center punch, kind of like so, focus, and you take and you stake the end of the threads right there, so it almost swells those out a little bit, and that will create almost like a lock nut effect inside of the basket. So go around, just stake the end of the bolt just a little bit, and that will ensure that they never rattle out from vibration, and if you ever have to take it apart, it'll still come out.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Next step, new hub. And it's pretty simple to install. Just don't forget that washer that goes in between the hub and the new basket. Just like that. Happy. Washer, lock washer, and then the nut. Tighten it down, torque it to specs. Good. All that's left to do now is bend that little tab over that nut right there. And we're ready for plates and fibers. Well on our way to being done. Now there's no need to put any thread lock or anything on these fasteners because the tension of the spring will actually hold them tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it here, 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 and then start over and go a little bit at a time so it puts pressure on this pressure plate and the clutch pack evenly. You don't want to distort anything or over tighten anything, so it just sucks down tight. Once we get that all done, I'll come back around, torque these bolts to the factory specs, and the clutch pack, it's assembled. We can go up, pull a lever, make sure it disengages and closes and opens like it's supposed to do. Talking a lot with my hands. Sorry. Habit, I guess. So one thing about torquing these down, these need to be torqued down to 12 Newton meter. The problem of it is trying to hold that tight because, you know, you don't really make a tool to hold that. So one thing I do on these Hondas is I take a copper penny or a copper washer and I actually set it down in between the two gears right here to kind of bind that together to keep it from rotating. Now keep in mind, you're only going to 12 Newton meter on there, so it's not going to put a lot of pressure on that. And the copper penny is actually softer than the metal gears, so it will not damage either one of the gears. Just make dang sure you pull that penny out of there before you reassemble this thing, or it'll cause all kinds of havoc. Now we can let it down, pull the lever, and watch the clutches disengage and engage. So one thing I do recommend is after you've torqued that and you've exercised the lever a little bit, retorque those because those springs are going to move around a little bit and they need to settle into place. So let's let it down, pull the lever, see if she opens and closes. Well, looks pretty good to me. Keep in mind that these clutches only have to move just a little bit to open up the spaces away from each other from the fibers and the steels. So it looks like it's working good to me. So time to put the cover on this thing and call her good. Might have to spin this around a little bit to line up the gears inside, but once you get it, it'll just fall into place. Just like so. There she is. We're ready for bolts. Well, isn't this just magical? Yes. So, got it all put together. Got the brake lever on. Put the old Kickstarter, shifter, kicker, whatever. Got the old Kickstarter on there. And torquing the bolt down with said torque wrench. And it's going along real well, and all of a sudden, yeah. It's been broke for a while. And yeah. Isn't this magical? I guess I'm getting a broken bolt out of a kickstart. This is gonna be a great day. Got it. I got lucky on that one. But that tells me it wasn't very tight when it broke because I was able to tap it out. All right, so that's 20 minutes of my life I'll never get back. So find me another bolt, put that thing in, cross my fingers it doesn't break, and we'll move on to the fun stuff, like the cylinder head. Gah, that's a bad deal. Come on, little fella. Oh, it's gonna be stubborn. Don't be stubborn. It's gonna be stubborn. Man, when this happens, you just want to get a screwdriver and just pry it off there, but that's a big time no-no. If you do pry anything off there, use something soft like plastic or, well, pretty much just plastic. But it'll come out now. Yep. There it is. Well, that was dumb. It shouldn't have been that hard, but we got her. One thing that's pretty cool about these fathead cylinder heads that Luke builds is, say one weekend you need to run, just regular pump gas. So you get the stock cylinder head dome. Next weekend you want to go full bore and you want to run straight race gas. All you got to do is call him. He'll send you one for a higher compression head. Simply take the head off, pop the dome out, take the new dome, pop back in it, just like so, and you're ready to go. Just that easy. You've got more torque, more horsepower, and you can run a higher octane fuel than you previously were. So this one, I believe, is the high octane dome. We're gonna throw it on this thing because I'm gonna run some Happy Juice in this thing because I want more bottom end, more horsepower, more torque. So that's the way we're gonna route. So if you guys are interested in this, head on over to Luke's Fathead Racing and pick you one up. If you run a modern two-stroke, he's your guy for cylinder heads. All right, well, she's all put back together. Fluids are all topped off. Let's see if this thing will light off. See how she sounds. Too. Well, awesome. That thing sounds really healthy and feels like it's got just a touch more compression just kicking it over, but man, it lit off like like it's never even been torn apart. So clutch feels good right there on the table. Trying to find somebody that can come run a camera for me and we'll go ride this thing. But if not, we'll wait till next weekend. Perfect. Wow, that thing runs really well. Huh. Who knew? Bolt-on horsepower. Pretty cool. And the clutch is spot on. Love it. Well, awesome. Well, I didn't have a cameraman and I didn't want to suit up with the GoPros and all that stuff. But trust me, the clutch is primo and that cylinder head, wow, the thing runs pretty good. Feels to me like it's got just a little bit more grunt bottom end, low end torque, and it still gets all over it when you dial her on. So next weekend we're supposed to be going on a bike ride and I'm planning on taking that bike, so we'll take you along. And after we get some time on it, we'll let you know how things are on that thing. So I'm pretty excited. So that's going to do it for this episode. And hope you guys learned something as far as clutches and stuff like that. Like I said, this pretty much, the way I did that will apply to any dirt bike out there. 4-stroke, 2-stroke, it's all pretty basically the same setup. So hopefully you can take some information from what I did today and apply it to yours. And next time you need a clutch, or if your clutch is grabby like this one was and wouldn't release when you pulled the clutch in, you know why now. So we'll catch you guys next time. And as always, I appreciate y'all watching, and make sure you like and subscribe. See you later.